Monsters. We're back again. Rusty, our movie this week is Buffy the Vampire Slayer, released July 31st, 1992.
I think everybody that listens to the show knew that this pick was coming. You've only been talking about the TV series for the last 3 episodes.
The TV series has been my life. Now, let me tell you, the movie doesn't seem like it was that long ago to us.
No.
But this movie is as distant from us today as when it was released. It was as distant from this film. Can you guess which film?
I don't know.
Mary Poppins.
What?
Yep. 28 years ago, 28 years from 92 was 1964. Mary Poppins, Goldfinger, To Russia with Love were burning up the box office.
Really? Is that true?
We like to feel old on this show. Yes. I looked it up right before
I like doing the math in my head. That's why I'm not talking. Oh my God. That's horrifying.
Now, Rusty, Joss Whedon famously wrote this film. We have a lot to talk about here with him. Kind of a complicated character.
I feel like he hates this movie, the way it turned out. Is that true?
Well, it's totally true. And but I think it's kind of an interesting story.
Do you know the story?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you it today. Before we go on, though, let me just say, rate and review the show.
All right.
Joss Whedon's dad, famously, he is a third-generation screenwriter. A lot of people say nepotism. His dad wrote for Alice, Benson, and even The Golden Girls.
Didn't know that.
But Joss Whedon, he did a lot of stuff during the 90s. According to the writer of Speed, Joss Whedon wrote 99.9% of the dialogue.
Wow.
Which means this guy's very modest to say that, Graham Youst. But what did he write then? What percent is left over?
Is this IMDb trivia, or did he pick this up elsewhere?
No, I called Joss. He's so down on his luck that he'll take calls from me now. He also spent 7 weeks on the Waterworld set, which he called hell.
Don't people like that movie now? It kind of has a resurgence, right?
I mean, I'm torn because I like swimming.
You like fish people.
I don't really like the vibe of the Dennis Hopper villains. They're very gross.
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially the ones that live in the bottom of the oil tanker.
Ugh. Joss Whedon famously did a rewrite on the X-Men film, contributing 2 famous lines. One, when Cyclops says to Wolverine, how do we know it's the real you? And Wolverine goes, "You're a dick." And then he's like, "Oh, I know it." And then the very infamous line about Storm saying, "Do you know what happens to a toad when it gets struck by lightning?" Same thing as everything else. But he had a long explanation as to why that was taken out of context.
Are we saving that for another episode?
No, I'll tell you right now, because it was supposed to be an offhand line. She was supposed to say, "Do you know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning?" And then he gets struck by lightning, and she's like, "Same thing as everything else." But instead, in the movie, she's like, "Same thing as everything else." So it makes it more of a big deal.
I don't remember that movie that well.
Also worked on Toy Story and Alien Resurrection.
Well, Alien Resurrection is a problem.
Well, he famously complained a lot about how that went.
Okay.
But despite all of his problems and recent cancellation, I related to this quote that he had. Yeah. It's actually not a quote. It's a long answer. But he said, "I lived my life feeling alone. That's just the way of it. I always did. As soon as I was old enough to have a feeling about it, I felt like I was alone. No matter how much I love my family, and I actually got along better with them than most people do, I just always felt separate from everybody and was terribly lonely all the time." Hey, I feel you.
Isn't that just depression? I feel like that. I feel that way sometimes. I'm sure you do as well.
Well, I just said I do. So the fuck. Buffy the Vampire Slayer famously started out as Martha, the Immortal Waitress.
That's an interesting title.
As you said, Rusty, this whole summer I've been watching Buffy and Angel simultaneously.
Really? Wow.
They intersect. It kind of ties together in cool ways. So it's very rewarding to watch them at the same time. I got to say, I'm really sick of them now. I'm in the final season of Buffy and in the 4th season of Angel, and can't wait for it to be over.
How long did Angel go on for?
5 seasons. Okay. But the thing is, the 5th season is supposed to be the best, so I'm like, I gotta hold out.
You didn't watch Buffy when it originally aired, right?
This is my very first time watching it.
Didn't you have an ex that was really into it, or am I imagining things?
I wouldn't call him an ex.
Okay.
No, I had two roommates who got really into Buffy at one point, and they watched the whole thing. But also, I remember we had this mutual friend who's like a real scumbag guy. We've mentioned him before on the show. I'm not gonna get too into him. His first name was Sean. You know who I'm talking
I
about?
do.
But he was just like I don't know. With girls, he was horrible, and he was constantly IMing people. And I remember at one point, somehow I got allegedly Sarah Michelle Gellar's name on AOL,
Wow.
which was Green Eyes Rock. And to this day, I'll never know if that was really her. But one thing that makes me think it was is that she was not into me at all. Like I talked to her like once and she did not find me interesting. But she talked to him for years. And he would be like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And she's like, "Oh, just hanging out with Freddie." And I'm like, "Is it real? Is that real?"
I'm going to say no way.
I mean, whoever it was really sticking with it for a long time. But God knows if I somehow tricked someone into thinking that, I'd be still doing it to this
That's
day.
like the longest catfish on record. How many years does that go?
Woo. Yeah, I don't know.
That's another mystery. We have to solve the mystery of if John Hamm was your waiter in that one. Green Eyes Rock.
That's true. Those are two great mysteries to solve.
Get Freddie on the phone. See what he thinks of it.
If there's ever a convention where you like pay for someone's autograph and she was there, I think I'd be like, "We have a Green Eyes Rock."
Excuse me.
She's like, "What?" She's like, "Slow down."
Security.
I had totally forgotten until I was watching the show, and I was like, "Wow, her eyes are really green." And then I was like, "Oh my god, Green Eyes Rock!" And all started flashing back to me.
Imagine you did say that to her, and you just see like the flashback in her eyes, like going back all those years, and be like, "He knows." Shit.
Oh yeah, and then if she was like, "No, I wasn't,"
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh my god, she's hiding something."
Yeah. It's a mystery we'll never solve, I don't think. Unsolved mysteries.
No, I think we will be solving that. Well, it started out as Martha the Immortal Waitress, and eventually Joss Whedon realized he wanted to tweak it a little bit. And he decided that Buffy was the name you could least take seriously. So you would hear Buffy and you would never think this is an important person.
Oh, that's interesting.
I wonder what the male equivalent would be for that. What would the male equivalent?
Buddy.
Rusty
Damn you.
Rusty the Minotaur Masher. Rusty the Orc Ogler.
Well, the Minotaur Masher, who wouldn't want to see that? There would be so
That
much curiosity.
sounds great to me. Yeah, that's like a F-rate Harry Potter, like all those kind of like Harry Potter knockoff books, like Rusty the Minotaur Masher.
I'm getting more into this character now.
I go into a maze. I find a Minotaur.
Is that me?
It's awesome.
That's you. Just talking to myself now.
It's better than Rusty the Goblin Grabber.
Yeah, he sounds sexy. I like that guy.
Kind of an interesting path of this film. It was bought by Dolly Parton's production company. And the director and her husband raised the financing for it. So you'll see the name Fran Kazooie on, which I hope is how you say it, on every episode of Buffy.
Wow.
I wonder how that paid off. Probably pretty well.
I would imagine so, right?
Night of the Comet was a huge influence on the original script.
I totally can see that. Yeah.
But as we said, before we really get into the film, Joss Whedon was not happy with the way things went. He had written this scary film, he said, about an empowered woman, and they turned it into a broad comedy. It was crushing.
How do you feel about that?
I can totally see where he's coming from watching this. I mean, I enjoyed watching it, but compared to the show, I mean, obviously the show is a million times better, but also the show just has a lot more energy. There's times in the movie where the scenes are like weirdly low energy.
Yeah,
I don't know how to describe it.
A lot of the scenes end very flat.
It's almost like the music also that's playing is like kind of low volume, and like the action is not really like in the show. I mentioned this in a previous episode, but in the show, the action is very hard hitting. It's like really well done. It's like a lot of good karate. But in this, it's okay, but it's very flat.
Needed a Monster Energy drink. Needed a little pick me up.
Certainly did. And the fact of the matter is, Joss Whedon says, I remember having a conversation with Kristy Swanson. She said, please tell me how to do this. Tell me what you want. I literally said, I can't. Because I've always treated film and television like the army. I'm very strict about it. It was not my place. It was the director's movie.
Yeah, but I mean, do you really believe that?
Not at all. I think it's complete horseshit. I think
What really
that
happened?
quote's like what you say when you didn't have any power over the situation. You want to look like you were honorable, and you're just like dropping bombs as your B-52 is taking off.
Oh,
Like,
there you have.
bye.
You're revealing too much behind the curtain.
Too much.
We're seeing Oz for who he really is. So, what do you think of Kristy Swanson's performance? Then, I'm curious to know.
I think he liked Kristy Swanson, but the very famous thing is that he hated Donald Sutherland.
I saw that. Well, didn't Donald Sutherland improvise all his scenes, or most of them?
The thing is that I was reading along with the script, and I didn't notice that many deviations in his lines. I mean, a couple times, and also he's supposed to be British, so maybe that was part of it. And there's a lot of jokes that come from him being British that obviously don't happen when Donald Sutherland is playing it like as an American guy. But yeah, Joss Whedon says he was there for almost all of the shooting, and he pretty much threw his hands up because he couldn't be around Donald Sutherland any longer, who he frequently refers to in interviews as fat. Now, I don't see Donald Sutherland as fat. Let me tell you, in the film Fellini's Casanova, you see way too much of him. You see his dick constantly, and he is very skinny.
Yeah, don't look now. You also see his dick, right?
I'm seeing his dick. I saw it in my apartment.
Do you ever feel weird about seeing like a respected actor's dick?
No, I'm not a homophobe.
Oh, I didn't mean it that way. Just, you now have an intimate relationship with this actor that you don't know personally.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, I mean,
I'm more disturbed when I see a stranger's dick. Like the other night, this guy was just jerking off for an hour. An hour.
Well, why were you watching for an hour?
Because I was sitting by the window and I kept looking out the window, and I was like, if this guy, like, I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm not going to like call the cops or anything. I did shine my laser pointer. I sent you the video.
If I was a betting man, I'm betting that you definitely threw something at him.
I did throw 2 apples, but I purposely missed.
What a nice guy.
Just for the record, the guy was like laying spread eagle and jerking off literally for an hour. Like it started at like 7:45, it went to like 8:45, and I was like, I'm going to give this guy like 20 minutes. I'm not going to do anything. Then 20 minutes goes by. I'm like, do I have any apples? He reacted to the first one because I hit the wall like 5 feet to the side of him, and he was like, "What?" But
I feel like our listeners would be like, "Who's crazier, the guy throwing the apples or the masturbating homeless guy?"
Oh, that will be revealed in the final episode of Viewmasters, broadcasting live from the asylum.
I thought you were going to say from the electric chair. Your last.
It could be either. We're approaching Halloween, and this podcast is me becoming Renfield. I could have been Dracula, but instead I'm becoming Renfield.
Oh boy. I'm just wondering what Donald Sutherland was thinking when he was reading the script for the first time. Like he's an established actor. A lot of newcomers in this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, is it a paycheck at that point?
I feel like he didn't really get it, or he didn't take it seriously, and he must have thought vampires were lame, and he went home and he was like, I can't take it. And Kiefer Sutherland was like, from Lost Boys, he was like, vamps are cool, Dad. I thought that was actually going to be a really good Kiefer Sutherland voice, but it wasn't.
Actually, that wasn't bad.
Okay. What if we play it back and then it was like amazing? And I'm always like trying to do a Kiefer Sutherland impression. Buffy's mom on the TV show was played by Christine Sutherland. Now, no relation. She changed her name from Christine Young and named herself after her cat, which she had named Donald after Donald Sutherland. And I bet when she told Joss Whedon that, he was like, I hate that fucking guy. Change your name. Kill your cat. She's like, well, my cat's already dead. This movie has a crazy cast. When the credits were rolling, I was like, I can't believe what I'm seeing here. Look at all these people.
Yeah, watching this now compared to watching it in 1992, a lot of people made a name for themselves.
And in fact, the studio had a lot of big plans for the movie, including some pretty big cameo roles. They blew their budget on getting guys like Rutger Hauer and Donald Sutherland on board, though. The initial plan was to add other celebrities and cameos as vampires, including the likes of David Bowie, Mick Jagger, and Carrie Elways.
I feel like they could have gotten Carrie. Was he in demand at that time? He had a couple movies. He had Robin Hood Men in Tights. What else did he have going on at that time?
I don't know. So this was definitely at the height of Kristy Swanson, though. She was definitely, this is like her peak.
She had a few big ones after her, like The Chase and stuff. But yeah, I mean, coming off of Mannequin 2, you can only go higher up.
Well, I think we mentioned this before, but do you know that Mannequin 2 was this is not a joke, like a, what's it called? Money laundering operation for,
yes.
Mentioned that.
I know we mentioned it, but I could never tell you when or where.
Yeah, that's very true. But yeah, it was, one of the producers was a spy for Israel. And so the budget of the movie was like 20 million. But if you look at the movie, you'll see that not a lot of that made it into the film.
I love that movie growing up. It's horrible. It's horrendous to watch now.
Kristy Swanson's first starring role was in Wes Craven's horror film Deadly Friend.
Did you ever see that, or you just know that?
I think I saw it basically like right on video pretty much after its release in 1986, but I haven't seen it since. I've always been meaning to see it just for a few of those famous scenes like the basketball death and stuff, but I have not seen it in a long, long time.
How old was she at the time? Was she with Alan Thicke yet?
Well, that's another good, interesting fact, because she did start dating him that year, 1986, when she was 17 years old and he was 42.
There's hope for you. You'll be trolling the high schools after this.
For the record, I will not be trolling the high schools, not for romantic partners. I'll be trolling the high schools for people to hang out with.
I thought you were going to say because they're not open right now, or they might be closing again soon.
What do you think it was like giving advice to the Growing Pains cast? Because that was when he was on the show, you know?
Yeah.
Like he's going to give advice to fucking Kirk Cameron. Well, he should anyway. But Carol Gold. Carol Gold's that her name? Not Carol Gold. Tracy Gold.
Tracy Gold.
He's going to give them advice when he's dating like a teenager, like such a creep. Meanwhile, Dan Lauria, the dad from the Wonder Years, he's dating Joanna Kearns at the same time. And he's probably just like, I don't like him. I don't like him. He's a beatnik dating a young girl. It's not right.
Like, God damn it, Karen.
Why did he date a young girl?
It's getting more aggro.
I can't do it. Oh, come on. He's too old for her.
I don't know who.
I don't care if he's Canadian.
If Dan Lauria hears this, he's like, that doesn't sound anything like me. Jack. That's my best Norm impression.
Oh, that was good.
That was good. Wow.
The standards are lowering dramatically as it goes on.
Yeah.
Hey, Dad, it's me, Kiefer. Dan Lauria just scolded me, Dad. Now I sound like Christian Slater, man.
That's actually a pretty good Christian Slater. See, and that's who Kristy Swanson references, who she would like to run away to Paris with and marry Christian Slater.
It's just Europe, but yeah.
Oh, wow. Whatever.
Rusty, she's always been a proud Republican. She's a supporter of Donald Trump. Now, for supporting him, this was in her Wikipedia. For supporting him, Swanson claims she and fellow actor Dean Cain received death threats for taking part in a stage play.
I don't believe that. But
this was crazy because I saw the tweets are still up where it happens, and she tweets like, "Oh, me and Dean Cain are putting on a play entitled FBI Lovebirds Undercovers, based on the text messages recovered from those two people that they tried to make a big deal about." And some random person tweeted, "Lock the doors and burn the theater down." And then she like retweeted it and was like, "This is a death threat. This is a death threat."
Isn't that how the Buffy the Vampire Slayer ends in the screenplay?
In the screenplay, yes. Not in the film, but in the script. No. And then, because also I was the first episode of the series takes place after the events of the movie / the original script. So she comes to Sunnydale having just burned down the gym of her school.
I wonder why they didn't go with that. I guess they wanted to keep it upbeat.
I don't think they had the money to burn anything.
Burn it down. Let the insurance figure that one out.
Now, the other huge star of this film was Luke Perry. Great to see him. A very likable role in this.
Well, this was his first film appearance, though, right?
I believe so. I think this is like his big role. Yeah, his big role after 90210.
How many Luke Perry posters did you have on your walls growing up?
I didn't have any actually, but I was sad when he died on March 4th, 2019.
Our friend Dan's birthday.
That's true. Also, the release of NBA Jam for Super Nintendo in 1992.
His
94,
birthday wish
actually.
came true. That sick fuck.
Wow.
NBA
Rutger
Jam,
Hauer, who
yeah,
was also in this film,
also
he
passed
died,
away.
4 months away from Luke Perry.
When did what's that date? Is that my birthday?
I read that when they saw each other in heaven, Rutger Hauer said, "Do I know you?" And Luke Perry was like, "Little bit."
Okay.
Luke Perry, though, really a salt of the earth person. He was born in Mansfield, Ohio, son of a homemaker and a steelworker.
Wow.
Now, the amazing thing about Luke Perry that I found out is that he always lived, like, through all of his stardom, he lived on the family farm in Tennessee. He's buried there to this day in an eco-friendly mushroom burial suit.
To this day. It's been 10 years.
Well, yeah, to this day.
He disappeared for a while. He had some roles in the 90s, disappeared, and then he came back for Riverdale, right? He was on that show.
I'm back.
He was gigantic in the 90s with 90210 with the dolls and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Every girl was into him.
I didn't realize how many years 90210 ran for. That ran for a long time.
I would say 4 seasons, but it's probably more than that.
No, it's more like 10 seasons.
That's crazy. After Brian Austin Green's character not him, his friend committed suicide, I bailed on the show.
I don't recall his friend committing suicide. What happened?
I think the guy's name was Scott, but he was showing off with like his parents' handgun, and it wound up going off, and he shot himself. Awesome. What was I going to say? But this movie, though, quite a good-looking cast, wouldn't you say?
I would say, yeah. Although I got to say, not just because of her horrible views, and also I looked at Kristy Swanson's Twitter, and like she is on the deep end of being a Republican. She's not just like, like a mainstream Trump.
You can't get past that kind of crazy, is what you're saying.
I just mean she's like really nuts. But also, I don't know what it is. She had a very 80s, 90s look. Like when we were kids, like that was the look that you were attracted to.
Oh, totally. From what's it called? Mannequin 2. That was like my dream girl. And then Buffy the Vampire Slayer just continued on.
You're such a coward too. You probably go along with her current views if you were dating her. You'd be like, "Yeah, make America great again."
Why are you doing a constant impression of me this episode?
Oh.
I mean, how hot does a girl have to be for you to like change your political views?
I honestly couldn't. I really couldn't. I wish I could say I could, just because I don't know why, but I really couldn't.
Would you join?
Also,
would you join Al Qaeda if you had to?
Well, that's closer to my views as it is. I just need a little push. Now, I didn't recall that she had made an appearance in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah, she's in like the classroom.
Yeah, she says like she has some convoluted thing of what he's ill with or something. It said.
I think she has less of an appearance than Seth Green has in this movie.
So the movie opens with a voiceover that is actually not unlike the first few seasons of the show, where it's like, "Into every generation is born a Slayer," and we
Whose
open
voice is that? It's very distinct.
Really, I don't know whose voice it is.
I like the voice though.
Love to hear it. We open in the Dark Ages. Kristy Swanson playing an older Slayer, and Donald Sutherland gives her a stake in this scene.
In that opening scene though, with the voiceover, they say if one Slayer dies, the next one is chosen. So I assume that means that that the Slayers always have an advantage, right? Like, what advantage does the vampires have?
What do you mean that the Slayers?
Because it says if one Slayer dies, the next one is chosen. So there will always be a Slayer to go after the vampires.
That is one thing this show and this movie also never really exactly solves, because the show does a great job of establishing Sunnydale as the hellmouth where like all the bad stuff happens. So it makes sense that the Slayer's there, but there's also seems to be multiple Slayers at times, and it's very, I would think you need a Slayer per county, basically.
Well, I mean, if the Slayer lives, do they go into retirement after X amount of time? What happens to this?
Now, the sad thing is the Slayers usually die or always die, basically. They're expected to die because it's like dangerous.
Is this?
It's like It's like being a logger.
I like the comparison. But is a Slayer, is that always their birthright, or can you just be like, yeah, I'll be a Slayer. I'm going to start my trading.
No, it's your birthright.
Yeah, so
But
you can't become one if you, even if you know about it, if it's like a hobby of yours.
yeah, no, you can't. I mean, but you can get pretty good at like the Slayer skills, as we see with Principal Woods in season 7. But man, think about Slayers by county. Nassau County Slayer is like, I'm gonna go fucking Slayer. I'm gonna be a fucking Slayer now.
With Lothos, though, you think he would keep a lower profile? He's walking around with those fancy clothes on. We all know we all know he's the head one.
It's true. Paul Rubens is like, Master, you could be more incognito, and he's like, I want to dress like Dracula. I did a better Rutger Hauer earlier.
That's like the
I want to dress. Fuck. Whatever, man. I'm out of here.
Yeah, why would Paul Rubens be like, it's the 90s, let's dress you like it?
Yeah, it's very true.
Is there any mention of Lothos in the TV series?
No, there is not.
What about Paul Rubens' character, Emmeline?
No, there's not.
I liked Paul Rubens' character. I'm sure we'll get into that more, but
oh yeah, I mean, I think I say somewhere in my notes the big standouts of this film. Joss Whedon said that, kind of a dicky thing to say, but very accurate. He said because the direction was so flat, the thing that stood out the most was his dialogue, which is true because there's so much funny dialogue, so many memorable lines. And then the other thing which really stands out is not Lothos, is Paul Rubens.
Emmeline.
Yeah,
Emmeline. I also think Stephen Root's character stands out a lot. He's got a lot of funny lines in the movie.
He does. And you want to know something interesting about this, Rusty?
Yes.
He was younger than you when he was.
I don't want to know that. That makes me almost feel better, though, because I feel like I look better than some of these people.
Wow. I really hope Stephen Root doesn't listen to this podcast. That's all I know.
What's he going to do? He's going to track me down?
He's like, 1 star. The 20th 1-star review. Oh, you guys are not so funny now.
Get buried at 20 stars. What happens? 20 bad reviews. What happens? So after the voiceover jumps into the title sequence,
I wanted to say one more thing.
Oh, go.
The opening scene. It's a much more elaborate in the script. Like it's way more of like an action scene. I could really imagine Joss Whedon getting pissed about because like almost nothing happens in that opening scene. He like gives her a steak, she raises it up, and then it's almost like 2001 the way it cuts to like the pom pom.
I like that. I'll admit I like that though.
Oh, I mean that was fun.
Like remember the Ghoulies opening that it was like 10 minutes long? It was a little too long. We didn't need to see everything.
Yeah.
Like if this just dragged on, the energy would have been even worse going into this movie. I really feel like this movie is just a rapid succession of like sequences. And I kind of like that in some ways because it's very quick moving. And before you have time to digest what's going on, you're on to the next scene. So it's just like, oh, we're already here. Oh, she's already got the skills. Like this goes onward. So yeah, I like that it's very quick and has that like 2001 Space Odyssey moment.
You were saying when the title comes on, I thought the title was kind of strange. Like just the font and like the way it looks on the screen. Do you know what I mean? It's like purple and kind of small.
Movie.
Yeah.
It looks like a TV movie. But I did like that energy going in. Got the cheerleaders and then the CNC Music Factory song.
Oh, I didn't realize that was CNC Music Factory.
Were you a big CNC Music Factory fan?
Yeah, you had to be when we were in 5th grade or you'd be executed.
Yeah, it really felt. I mean, nowadays they're obsolete, but yeah, everybody dance now.
I remember I really wanted the tape, but I never got it. But I was always like on the border of getting it.
Dude, weren't they also exposed the same way like Milli Vanilli was exposed that it was just models and that the real singers, like one of the singers I think for the band was the girl from the woman from the Weather Girls.
They said it was a music factory. They didn't. They were more than Milli Vanilli.
There's a lot of bands that did that though. Did you know that with Buffy, obviously played by Kristy Swanson, do you know it originally was supposed to be played by Alyssa Milano?
Oh, I did see that. Yeah.
But she would have to wait her turn until she starred in Embrace of the Vampire. Do you remember that one? That was like softcore porn.
Okay. Porn should not even be in the word you just said. But yeah, I do remember that. I remember renting that and being like, it's finally time.
You know, everybody talked about that movie. I mean, this was obviously predated internet, so that was like the thing that we talked about on the bus.
Oh yeah. And I mean, as like a, going through puberty kind of kid or going up to like 18, those kind of softcore, suspense films were the kind of thing that you watched.
I think that was it Cinemax specialty or one of those?
Yeah.
One of those movie channels. I have to admit though, I didn't love that movie in the way that a 14-year-old boy should have loved that movie.
Yeah, I don't think I did either. I remember it being pretty disappointing.
There was that one and the Nicole Eggert one, if you remember that.
Blown Away with Corey Haim.
Yeah. He's got it on like
that was
dial.
As I recall, that was a much more that was a better film. I think I rented
yeah. I have used that material a couple of times in my life.
Wowie.
I'm sure you did too.
I'm gonna use it later.
I wonder if like younger generations, if people watch that, and they'd be like, "What's wrong with you guys?" But that's all we had.
Yeah, I mean, this was a generation where literally people would like search through the woods for like abandoned magazines.
I thought you were going to say sort through the mail for a Sears catalog. Anything.
Well, that too. Not Sears, but close to Sears.
Well, Victoria's Secrets was like the gold line.
Oh yeah,
so
that's like Coke. Give me fucking like the purple drank of fucking Macy's or
Sears isn't good enough, but Macy's.
Man, if you don't know the difference between Macy's and Sears, Macy's is a lot sexier than Sears. Sears is where you buy a fucking dishwasher. Macy's is like, you could have some hot times.
I picture you like a robot, your gears exploding. If you ever got like a Fredericks of Hollywood in the mail.
That was too much. That was too much. I think I did get that in the mail.
Right in the sewer.
I was like, this is a little on the nose. Leave something to the imagination.
Your parents are like, Eddie, what are you throwing in the sewer? Just like, it's too much. Too much.
The sewer and then St. Williams. That'll be my circuit I make.
St. Williams. The nuns are like, there's so much pornography.
Oh God.
Little Eddie D. If you could go back, what would you say to yourself? Keep the Fredericks.
I would say, chill out, dude.
Mel out, man.
It's like, what will my wife be like when I'm 41? You're gonna watch a guy jerking off for an hour and throw apples at him. Oh, where's my family during this? You have no family.
Oh, that's sad. It took a dramatic turn. It's a wonderful
life. But do I enjoy my life? Not really, because there's a pandemic and the world's on fire. Oh boy. So in this opening scene, it's like a cheerleading routine. There's a basketball game going on. Now the basketball coach was he parodying political correctness or like California New Age culture. He was kind of a weird. I didn't know exactly what the bit they were doing with him was.
I don't know. The actor is Mark DiCarlo, who also hosted that game show Studs, if you remember that.
Wow, I do remember that.
Yeah. But I don't know what they were going for, because he had a little bit of the vibe from like the coach of Teen Wolf, like not much of a coach.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what they were going for with him. I mean, his character was okay.
Yeah, it's just I couldn't really figure out. But I got to say, the very next scene after that, Rusty, you must have went fucking ape shit when you saw this.
Which one? Scene?
In the mall, when they're in the mall.
Oh my god! Yeah, that was an amazing scene.
Now I don't know what the deal is, but I couldn't figure out which mall this was, and I looked it up, but I could not find where they shot this.
Yeah, that makes me sick that you don't know that.
Yeah.
I want you to choke yourself the way that the guy in Full Metal Jacket had to choke himself for not knowing that. That seems like right up your alley.
I know. It looks familiar to me. I feel like I've been there. And then when Donald Sutherland, kind of a offensive joke these days, but when Donald Sutherland tries to interrupt them and like they close the elevator and then one of them says, "What a homeless." That's kind of funny.
Yeah, I think everything they said, that whole Valley Girl speak, is kind of funny.
Yeah. Also, very first film appearance by Hilary Swank.
Yeah, there's a big one.
And I found her pretty funny in this film. I enjoyed her performance.
Yeah, she played the character Kimberly well, like very over the top.
Yeah. Like, I think
Just
that if this was someone you had never heard of, I would have been like, whatever happened to this actress? Because, like, it makes sense that she went on to bigger things.
yeah, I like her character that's waiting for that move to take over the group. She had like the one disciple.
Yeah.
You know what? Watching this scene in the mall, like I remember watching this movie in '92, and that was, the culture of the time, the look.
Hmm.
And watching it now, it's just made me feel so old that so much time has passed from that look. I mean, some of it's retro, but I don't know. It was like exhilarating to watch, but also depressing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember going to the malls. They used to have, remember they had ducks and turtles at Sunrise Mall in Massapequa?
Yes,
Now,
they have a koi pond.
the only reason to go to a mall these days is to commit a mass shooting. It's fucked up.
What are you saying? That is fucked up. I think you will be able to commit a mass shooting
Oh, yeah.
at
You'd
a
be like,
mall if they're so empty.
yeah, you'd be like running after people, like, come back. I need to get my numbers up.
That would have the kill count as we do with like Call of Duty 0.
We went to the mall so much, as I'm sure we've said before, we used to get an employee discount at Bavarian Pretzel.
I know I said it before, but you were always trying to get that one at Orange Julius.
Oh, yeah. I didn't go to Orange Julius enough. It was Orange Julius, like,
Yeah.
really tasted like the 80s, but you didn't want to taste it all the time.
What was the Orange Julius? It was orange drink, but what was the other ingredient?
Like sherbet or something weird. Sherbet's another thing. I feel like, do they still make sherbet? They're like, the sherbet went extinct like 1994.
I think I'm gross enough to admit that I like sherbet. I gotta get
Yeah.
some. I haven't had sherbet in forever.
My father used to have it. Sherbet's like one of those things that you would have as like a diet option, but you probably were just better off having ice cream anyway.
Sure, I think sherbet's actually worse than ice cream.
Oh, wow. So it's kind of like a margarine.
Yeah, it's actually worse for you, but you think you're doing good.
So then there are the movies. Man, remember to go to the movies at the mall. I remember that. Wow.
Yeah.
Woo.
People out there are like, they're old. They're like
Yep.
50.
I remember with my dad at the mall going to the opening night of Pet Sematary.
We sound like Andy Rudy from 60 Minutes. You remember when we went to the mall?
The Naked Gun. I saw it in the theater at the mall.
Well,
God
I did.
Damn it, Frank Drebin.
Yeah, this scene, very bizarre scene with the way the two groups interact, where we're introduced to David Arquette's character Benny and Luke Perry.
Very bizarre. I had to look at the script and I had to put on the captions on the old TV there, because I like Luke Perry so randomly yells, "It's Loch Ness Monster!" And I was like, why does he yell? Did he just say it's a Loch Ness Monster? And in the script, he doesn't say that. And then, but he does say it in the film, but it's completely unmotivated. It's just like a weird, crazy thing to yell.
For those that didn't see the movie or don't know, I mean, the Valley girls in front of them are talking really loud, and they're like annoyed by it. So he's just like, "Boo!" And then Luke Perry's just like, "It's the Loch Ness Monster," which I don't know how that's relevant to what's going on. I don't know what that means.
No,
I tried to think about it. Is he comparing them to the Loch Ness Monster, or is he trying to like one up them? I felt like watching the scene though. It was clearly David Arquette and Luke Perry would be the popular people nowadays.
Oh yeah,
like they were supposed to be like the outsider, like indie guys, the rebels. But nowadays they would have been the hunks.
It made me think of times that I've experienced people talking in movies. I mean, I feel like we've told some of the stories before, but
yeah, I'm sure you have like dozens of stories.
I remember one time seeing a movie. It was the movie In America, Jim Sheridan movie about Irish immigrants. And
I'm just picturing people talking through that one.
The opening scene, they're like driving through, it's like in the 80s. They're like driving through like New York, and the guy behind us is me and my brother Jim. The guy behind us was like, they're driving through New York, they're turning down the street, and my brother just turns to him and he goes, "Who are you, the fucking narrator?" And then it was like so tense, and I was like, "Are we gonna gonna get into a fight in the fucking heartwarming film in America. But it really was like the guy was like describing everything that was happening. I mean, he messed with a blind person.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Or a hearing impaired person. Well, that would make sense. So the movie ends and they go outside.
They go outside.
And
This hit me really hard because I can't remember what I was doing that first night I just watched this, but I'd been reflecting on life, and this was the Hollywood Galaxy Theater, which in my early years of LA, I lived right near this movie theater. I used to walk there all the time.
is it
And
still there?
no, it's been gone since like
Oh,
2005 for like a long
oh,
time.
okay.
And but it looked just like it used to. And there's a pizza place across the street, appears just like it used to. The liquor store, which I believe you also see in the opening of Entourage, look exactly the same. And I was like, oh my God, I can't fucking believe this, man. Blew my mind, brother.
I don't think I asked you this, but I know you've said you've seen this movie back in the day. Did you like it when
I
you
did like
originally
it.
saw it?
Yeah. It was a moderate box office success, but it became kind of a cult hit on video. And
Yeah,
that's when I saw it on video. I didn't see it in the theater. And
I didn't
one
either.
interesting thing I found out was that it was actually not Joss Whedon's idea to make a TV show. Um, some of the other producers, not the director and her husband, but some of the other producers involved in the film had the idea to do a TV show. They called up Joss Whedon. He said, "Hey, you know what? I can't believe I'm saying this, but let's do it."
That's a weird take. Why not? Why not just go for it?
Well, back then, TV was so
Yeah,
maligned, and it really seemed like a step back. And in one of these, I read a really long interview with Joss Whedon from like 2003. And even then, they were very dismissive towards TV. They were like, the interviewer kept being like, "Can you believe you ended up in TV?" And now, of course, like, man,
yeah,
I'll do TV over movies any fucking day.
yeah. Netflix.
Netflix,
Get on that Netflix.
Hulu, Amazon Prime, you got all of them. So, Rusty, the cool kids pull up. Reminded me of all these films, the cool kids were always pulling up like in a convertible.
Yeah, you always wanted to get in that car with them.
Never been in a convertible my entire life.
It's not great. I'm not a convertible person, but why always a convertible? Is that what cool kids drive?
I think it probably just makes it easier to shoot, but also, you know,
That's
maybe
a good point.
maybe it's a California thing, you know, just like
Yeah,
when I was young and we used to watch these California movies and stuff, and they'd have like the campuses where the classrooms faced like the outside, you know, you open
yeah.
the
That
door of the class. I was always like, what the hell's going on here?
yeah. I'm thinking of like Just One of the Guys or Karate Kid. I think it was
Yeah.
the same school. What do you think of these cool guys? Would you have hung with them?
Nope. They're a bit of blanks, these guys. These were two actors who did not become stars. And
No.
a bit of zeros.
The guy that's in the back seat, the character Grueller, he was in Dazed and Confused. That was his other big
Oh yeah,
role.
he's the one that stands out a little bit because he becomes like a vampire shortly after this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I liked his character as the vampire.
So he becomes a vampire right after this, right? This is when he sees
Well,
Paul Rubens on the carousel.
yeah, but he doesn't make an appearance until a little bit later on. But yeah, I think he's like one of the first that we see get bit.
Because my theory about this carousel scene, this must have been the scene where Seth Green appeared, I think. Because I think it cuts when you see Paul Rubens on the carousel, and it's implied that he did the kill here. But I think his minions came up behind the guy and bit him as he watched.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I just didn't get what the character was doing, the character Grueller, because he said to his friends that he just wanted to party. So he gets out of the car to go party, but he goes to a abandoned carousel by himself.
That's what
I
you
don't
used
know
to
what kind of
do
party.
when you're in high school. You have nowhere to go. You're just like, I guess we'll go to the archery range.
Yeah, that was I don't know. It's just a lot of weird scenes in this one. Like that was. It seems like you have to suspend your disbelief a lot in this movie. Like a lot of why is this character doing this, or why does this character know that? There's no rhyme or reason to it, and it's just why would this guy be at that place and then saying like, I know someone's behind me, you better show yourself. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt like you were being watched or followed, and instead of turning around and looking, you would just say, I know somebody's behind me?
Only the entire quarantine. I'm trying to make it happen. It's like wishful thinking. I'm like, okay, come out, but no one does.
You're so lonely.
I
Hoping
am
somebody
lonely.
follows you back into your place. Not the graffiti guys, though.
God. I've told this story before, but there's one time I heard footsteps
Oh.
on my roof, and I heard such a crash. I swear to God, I thought it was someone breaking into my skylight. Like I was positive it was. And I came out to like fight them like barehanded or just to like tell them to leave.
Knuckle brawling.
But the funniest thing is I had a t-shirt on but no bottoms. So I was just like a Winnie the Pooh. I just had my penis out. I'm just like, and I was like, what the fuck? But I was like, that would be such a weird thing to encounter.
Oh, Christopher Robin. I have no pants on.
I don't wear pants to bed anymore because it's just like, come on, you know you're gonna be pissing 30 times a night. You're like, I can't wear, don't wear the pants.
Yeah, but aren't you tempted to jerk it during the night?
No.
Really? I feel like I wake up so many times throughout the night where my hand is down my pants.
Really?
Not doing anything. It just winds up down my pants. I don't know if it's a comfort thing. Yeah, you know what the weird thing is to see when the guy, Andy, one of the friends, like Kristy Swanson leans in to kiss her boyfriend, but like leans over the other friend. And he's like hovering his hand over her butt.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, yo, could I borrow her for a minute?
Yeah.
Is that something bros do? I don't know. What were you?
Well, he was supposed to be being inappropriate there, but it does come off very weird.
See, the thing that's interesting though about the scene though, because he doesn't do it here, but later on he does, and he pays for it, where she puts him in his place. So I guess that's deliberate, right? That he holds off.
Well, no, it's like a character arc because, you know, he had that comment early and she didn't do anything about it. And then later she kicks his ass.
Yeah.
But it's
I like that he was fearful of her for the remainder of the film.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a nice touch. I do like that in this movie though, where we talked about female empowerment, that the guys are like submissive to her.
Oh,
and even Pike like tries to help, but he just gets in the way of himself, or he faints and he's useless. So it's always her.
Yeah.
And I like that they keep that throughout the film, where she didn't need a guy to help her at all.
Yeah.
Very nice touch.
Even on the
92 film.
Exactly. Even on the poster, he's like behind her and she's like the tough one. Wearing that green hoodie with cut off sleeves, which I thought was a cool style, but I didn't notice her watching it in the film.
Luke Perry did actually like the idea that he wasn't like the lead or the hero in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Thought that was cool of him. That he actually liked that he was like the damsel in distress.
Hey, rescue me! It's the 90s. I'm cool with it.
You know what I liked as Pike's character grows in this movie? He winds up shaving off his flavor saver piece of hair.
Oh, I did not notice that.
Isn't that all about growing up, as Blink-182 said? I guess this is growing up.
I don't remember them saying that. That must have been one of the small things. Damn it! Oh boy.
Blink-182 jokes. Let's talk about the scene where Buffy's boyfriend comes over as the parents leave them alone.
I bet you love that Doritos bag. Classic Doritos bag.
I actually have that in my notes.
Rusty, when you saw that Doritos bag, didn't you just want to pull it over your head and asphyxiate yourself and time travel back to the 80s?
Would that happen? Or would I just be dead thinking I was going time travel? Either way. Did you notice the really well-placed diet wild cherry Pepsi cans facing the camera? There's a lot of product placement in this movie.
Wow. I did not see that, and I didn't even know they had that technology back then.
Didn't you think that part of life growing up, that this scene would have played out the same way in reality for you? Like hanging out with like the hot chick, eating Doritos, watching a movie, hooking up? I
think it did play out for a lot of people.
Oh, so I just didn't make it happen for myself. Did you know, speaking of people in this movie, Candy Clark played the mom? Would never have recognized her.
You'll have to remind me who Candy Clark is.
She was the love interest in American Graffiti. She was in The Man Who Fell to Earth. I feel like she looks different in every movie that she's in. And this is no exception to that.
We have the flashback where it's a dream that she's encountering Lothos and all this stuff. And I know it's a dream, but man, this stuff has no energy. It's just very low energy.
Yeah, what were they going? What was the necessity of that?
Like knowing Joss Whedon's kind of like high octane approach to the TV show, and like I can't even. He must have been flipping out when that was happening.
I like what I'm hearing,
because that was like, we always talk about there being a gas leak in like the studio. That was like a gas leak, like because everyone just moving at like half speed, It just like feels very lazy.
Yeah.
And then they
What do you?
cut to Paul Rubens talking to Lothos. This is also kind of low energy stuff where it's just like, "You're going to be back soon, master."
Yeah, I hate to say this, but I didn't particularly like the Rutger Hauer scenes. I
Me
feel like
either.
his character was so blah.
His character is incredibly blah.
You could have cut all his scenes, and he could have appeared at the very end, and I would have forgiven him for that. Like I didn't need the build up to Lothos. It's just like, oh, here's the head vampire, and he's dead. There you go.
It feels so obligatory the way it cuts to him too. It's almost like it was like a screenplay format that it was like, got to cut to the villain now, and it's like, "Master, you'll soon be back." And it's
Yeah.
very, it's actually different in the script. But this is another thing that's frustrating is like Lothos has so many scenes where he's like, "I won't face her now, I'll face her later." And it's just like, why? Like, like when a character seems like they're waiting for the end of the movie.
It does feel very deliberate like that. Yeah, there's so many moments. He actually had her too at one scene
Yeah.
under his spell. But anyway, so they're the next day they're at the school.
This was depressing. Because
Nothing
every issue,
changed.
yeah, they talk about they're going to have an issue um, be the theme of like the dance or whatever.
Mhm.
And none of those issues have been solved. In fact, they're all much, much worse.
When one of the girls said forest fires, I was just like, no, that's a big issue right now.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing's been done about that.
Literally, my bathroom's on fire right now. The fire's reached half my apartment.
Are the skies still orange there?
No, it's
What
weird.
color
The
are they now?
skies are not orange anymore, but there are still a lot of bad fires going on.
Can you smell it? Does the air have a
No,
hint?
I was smelling it. When the sky was orange, it smelled like a campfire outside. It was crazy. But right now, it doesn't feel as bad.
Hmm. In this scene, though, we also are introduced to the character Cassandra, played by Natasha Gregson Wagner.
Yes, I
Did you
did not
recognize her
remember.
right away?
I mean, I saw her name in the credits, and then I saw her appear. I was a huge fan of hers in the late '90s or mid to late '90s.
I was going to say, how much did you love her in Two Guys and a Girl, Two Girls and a Guy?
Her and Heather Graham in that movie were just like the pinnacle of female attractiveness to me at that age in that era.
She had that like late '90s look there too, and
Oh yeah,
she nailed it.
completely.
I didn't know. I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I didn't know that she was the daughter of Natalie Wood
Yes,
and adopted by Robert Wagner after Natalie Wood's death.
after he killed her. Yes.
After I don't want to say that, but yes, pretty much. I wonder what she thinks about that because apparently she was devastated by her mom's death, and then to hear all the rumors,
Yeah.
it seems like there was definitely foul play. I mean, not to
Oh
get
yeah.
into that case. I'm sure this podcast I have talked about that.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy stuff.
The only one that they did mention the ozone layer. I feel like the ozone layer actually got fixed, but am I wrong about that?
No, I think you're right. I think it did recover a bit. Did we do it? Did humans do anything to, or did the Earth
I
just like
I
heal itself?
believe like banning CFCs and all that stuff. I think that actually worked out. That was like
Well,
the one thing
I'm
that
sure.
worked out.
I'm pretty sure we'll be using them again. I'm sure
Oh yeah.
the
Here's my big idea. Why don't we have an
yeah.
inland sea? Get like a me, you, and Eric dig like a ditch, and as like the sea levels rise, it'll all like flow into like this inland sea.
Like maybe we
Mm.
could fill the Grand Canyon. We get the pipes laid down. It's like, and I don't think this is a great idea to fill the Grand Canyon with no permission. Ed, you're dragging me into every episode. Ray, just do it. We're gonna be kings of this. We're gonna build fucking houses on this ocean. That was the plot of Superman, and it didn't work out for him. That was the last film I seen. It was a great film. I believed a man could fly. I really did. I saw him. He's flying around. What a beautiful sight.
I need to know if Ray really exists.
He does. And I've been having all these weird plumbing issues.
Oh, me too.
Tell me about it.
Well, it's getting colder in New York, and at night it drops below into the low 60s, and uh, we tested out the heat, and on the third zone is not working.
Uh,
So that's something I need to get a plumber for. I don't know why. I have no idea.
that's where the mammoth's gonna live.
Well, it's where Nova's room is. Mm. The poor baby has to sleep in the cold. And you can't even put a blanket on them yet. No blanket.
Oh no! What? Why?
It's like a SIDS risk.
Yeah,
they can't, if they like get caught underneath a blanket, they don't know how to like get it off of them.
She's like Jeffrey Epstein. She's like, don't give her a blanket, man. She's gonna hang herself.
Oh boy, I mean, the thing that's horrible is that having a daughter, a very young daughter, she's going to grow up in such a horrible world. It's scary. What have I done? She's just gonna wind up like the Nova in Planet of the Apes. Oh, Nova. What have they done? A lot of people have asked me where the name comes from. I did tell one person that I always liked the movie Planet of the Apes, the name of the character. And they said, don't tell people that story.
I think that's cool. I'm going to be like, have you met my son, Tron? And here's my grandson, Tron Legacy. Dad, I didn't want to name him Tron Legacy. It's bad enough I'm named Tron.
That Tron's not a bad. Tron would be an interesting name.
Tron would be a cool name.
Jen went to you're gonna love this. Jen went to law school with somebody that named their baby Anakin, which I think is horrendous.
That's awesome.
He likes it. Would you ever name?
This is my son, Ki Mundi.
The chance that you would name one of your kids a Bobo from Double Dragon?
Higher than naming my kid Salacious Crumb. Only because I would name him Salacious Crumb because he's like, oh, Dad, I'm going to go by Sal. I'm like, you're not going by Sal.
Yeah, that might even be worse.
If I ever meet someone, like if I'm like back on Long Island, the guy's like, oh, my name's Sal. I'm like, is that short for Salacious Crumb? I'm like, what the fuck did you just say?
Salacious Crumb.
I'll tell you what name I won't be using is Cafe Blase if I open up a cafe, which obviously I won't be doing because it's all going to be in ruins soon.
Yeah, that's a hell of a time to open a store, a cafe.
It was interesting to me because the thing I find weirdly most unrealistic about the TV show is in the early seasons, they're always going to this club called the Bronze, but they're underage. And it's like, it's always weird to me on shows when like all the kids go to like an underage kind of place. I feel like no one did that in our era. There was no like underage club where everyone went unless they were all going and I didn't know.
I think they were because I would hear people talking about it. They would get into like, I think the big club by us was Malibu's.
And I love when Hilary Swank, who earlier dissed the jacket Buffy wanted to get, she ended up getting it. And Buffy says, I thought you said that was like 5 minutes ago. And she goes, it's retro.
If all these characters, all of these girls are so like narcissistic and into themselves, like the way Kristy Swanson says about the jacket, like, wouldn't this look great on me? How would these characters get along? Can people really do that? Like, could you hang out with a group of narcissists?
If they were high school girls, yeah. me, 5 narcissistic valley girls and a 41-year-old man. I was like, it's pretty cool, Jack. You want me to buy the jacket for you guys?
I'll buy each of you one jacket. Just let me hang.
Not in a sexual way, by the way, just because I'm lonely.
I'm just picturing you hanging out with high school girls now in present day, like not in a sexual way, just platonically.
I gotta get on that TikTok. I gotta get on. Show me some of those TikToks. Now, is it true what they say about that China?
This guy is gross.
I remember going.
That's what you'd be telling these high school girls. I remember.
Me, John, and Nick are friends from high school, friends that used to listen to this podcast, and I don't think they do anymore, so they could suck my dick. But
leave that in.
We're going to bars or something, and we had like a football, and we're like we like parked on some side street in Wanta, and we're like throwing this football back and forth, and this teenage kid came by, and he started like throwing the ball around with us for a second, like a teenage boy. And he was like, oh, how old are you guys? And we're like 30. And the look on his face, the look of horror and like disgust that we were like so old and this is what we were doing. And now I'm like, I aspire to throw football around like a dark suburban street And what if I saw a kid and I was like 41, be like, oh, what is your son like in my grade? I'd be like, oh, I'll have a son someday, maybe.
I'll let you borrow Nova for a while. You can see if you still want to have a child.
Get that adrenochrome.
Oh wait, you can't do that.
I just need a little for blood. I just need a little baby blood bath bomb.
What
Keeps you youthful.
That is a good product to develop.
Mm-hmm.
If you borrowed Nova, what life lesson would you teach her? What would, like, the important thing be to instill in a young kid?
How to disassemble an AK-47 while blindfolded.
That is pretty useful, I guess.
Luke Perry and David Arquette show up drunk to this club, and the girls are like, "You guys are wasted."
Yeah.
The ending of the scene is strangely low energy. Did you notice this is another low energy moment? It kind of just cuts. You're just like, what?
There's a sequence of scenes here that are very low energy. Is this the first one of that? Or it's definitely, I know what you're saying, though.
Yeah, because it just cuts, and then we go to David Arquette is hanging out with Luke Perry, and they get bit. Like this whole thing is so low energy. Paul Rubens kind of appears behind him, bites him. Then Luke Perry falls down in front of Donald Sutherland's car. Donald Sutherland's like, we should go. And it's so weird, the energy level.
But at the Cafe Blasé scene, though, is the point of that scene basically just to have Buffy and Pike interact in a weird flirtatious way?
I guess
it seems like that scene's unnecessary, but we need to establish that they kind of notice each other, even if it's like antagonizing one another. Did you notice Ricky Lake, though, in this scene? She was a waitress. Remember Ricky Lake?
Yeah, of course. I did not notice that.
She's the one that Benny, David Arquette's character, drops the change on. He's like, what does it look like? And she's like, 2 hot dogs, or like a hot dog and a coffee or something, whatever she says.
Yeah.
You know what made me a little queasy for some reason? Seeing Luke Perry eat that hot dog bun. It just seemed way too doughy and gross. It seemed like paper almost. I was like, ugh.
And so it's kind of, I guess another thing was kind of to set up that Buffy has powers, because David Arquette kind of puts like the hot dog by his dick, and then she like slices it in half with like a knife in kind of an unexpected moment of like, weapon use. But then David Arquette's like,
those powers?
Yeah, I think so. But David Arquette's like, she ruined my dog, but like, it's just cut in half, man. You could still eat that. Not that I would. You could. He could.
Not that, well, you wouldn't because you're a vegetarian, or because it was cut in half?
Oh, because I'm a vegetarian and more radical by the day. I'm how we were in that animal rights group in community college. I'm going back to that.
Oh, really?
Big time.
I always like that. Like the real stuff, not like throwing paint on somebody's fur coat.
No, I'm throwing blood. Human blood. It's your baby's blood. Actually,
no. Wait,
I'll need a little.
Pull it back.
I need more blood. Look, Jen. Originally, Ed wanted just a little bit.
You're going to show up outside our window, like, come on, guys, just let me in. I need some of that blood. I'm hungry. Yeah. We're like, dude, what are you doing? You're floating up here. That was actually a good scene where it was lacking energy. They picked up with that scene.
Yeah, that was a good scene.
I just like Luke Perry's kind of half asleep and he's like processing it, and then it kicks in. Betty's floating outside the window.
And it's good too, because it's like there's always the weird thing in horror movies where it's like, oh, do they not know about zombies in this movie? But he's like, you're a vampire, man. Come on, man.
Yeah, it is interesting that they point out that they know of like the lore of vampires, and now it's a reality.
Mm-hmm.
I always wondered that, like in movies, when it's like the theme is vampires or zombies, if they actually know of the lore. And in this movie, it points it out.
I feel like if vampires, usually people do know. I feel like zombies, for some reason, people never know.
They never do. Well, I mean, if there was a zombie apocalypse, would it be like what we know, or would it be completely different? Would it just be more like Invasion of the Body Snatchers?
I think it'd be a lot like now, with a lot of 40% of the country is complete morons.
40% might be a little. I think it might be higher than that now.
So they're cheerleading practice, and Donald Sutherland unexpectedly shows up. Another kind of low energy, but kind of a fun scene. I like when he's like, "So you'll come with me to the graveyard." It's just such a creepy
line.
Imagine in 2020, a older guy pulling that line on a younger girl. Like, is that? Wait, you know what I want to ask you that I actually wrote down? The character Merrick, is he eternal? Like, does he just live forever?
Yeah, he's supposed to be.
Or does he get like resurrected when a Slayer is needed?
It's kind of weird because
That's his call.
it's like it would make more sense if he was resurrected when a Slayer got called, but it seems like he's eternal. But it also seems like he dies pretty easily. So it's like through all these centuries, he never encountered
Yeah, he
that
never
kind of
got-
danger before.
He seems pretty clumsy too. Like it seemed like he never aged, like in the flashback scenes.
Mhm.
But like when he took her to the graveyard and he gets attacked, like he immediately needed help. He was just like a bumbling old guy.
Now, this was a very classic. I feel like the recurring thing of the show is they're always going to the graveyard and like walking around, and then like a vampire comes out. So it's kind of cool when they went to the graveyard to fight those two vampires.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know much about the show, so I can't.
Going to the graveyard used to be a huge thing. I wonder if it's still big for kids.
I don't think so. I think those places are pretty secure.
Yeah. I
Cameras
think
and
also
everything.
once you have like social media and the internet, you don't need to go to hang out in graveyards anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's like part of growing up, though.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, though I'm sure if we were growing up now, everything would be different. So we're just the old guys reminiscing.
Yeah.
But the other thing I want to say about Merrick's character, so if he's alive, if he's eternal, what is he doing for money? Like, is he continuously working? Like, time to retire as a cobbler. Now I'm on to like working in the steel mill while I'm trading, looking for the next Slayer.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I always wondered that. Like, what's he doing? What's his side game?
I guess he's like, I bought real estate in like 1600 for a nickel.
That's you would hope so.
He's like, I
You'd hope he was doing
left
something
my NAS games in the package. I didn't have time. Stadium events. I sold it.
Yeah.
Buffy. You're like so lame.
See, I would like to see that part of the movie. What he's doing. That's what is like. I just does he have a girlfriend on the side? Is he like continuously dating? If you were a Slayer trainer, what would you be doing? I'm sure you'd be dating a lot of models on the side.
I'd be like, and I still never wrote my novel.
How much stuff do you think you would get done if you're immortal? If you knew you were immortal?
Oh, if you knew, you'd get nothing done.
Yeah,
I would live like exactly the same life.
Next 1,000 years. Looks like I'm playing some more video games.
So Buffy goes home. We think she's in trouble because her mom says, "What time is it?" But her mom is actually more concerned about social engagement she has. Kind of a subtle thing that they don't really stress that much, but is that Buffy's parents completely neglect her, and then Donald Sutherland becomes kind of like a surrogate father, but barely. But you could tell that's what they're going for.
Yeah. I don't even think you see the father in this movie at all, right? He's completely absent.
I guess he is. I feel like you see him like in that first scene, but I'm not sure.
But they also point out. Oh, I think you're right. But they point out that like at one moment the mom calls the boyfriend Bobby,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just like, "Your mom called me Bobby," and she's just like, she might even think I'm Bobby. Like the parents
yeah.
completely neglect her.
Then she put that ribbon in her hair before going to bed. She lays down, Rusty, but she's laying down with Lothos. Another dream.
What?
Pointless dream.
You know what? I feel like there was a missed opportunity though, because when she like wakes up and she touches the ribbon in her hair, and she leans back in her bed, her headboard is completely like blackened out,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought could have been a good moment just to see maybe like Lothos or like Paul Rubens' character watching her. So it's like part dream, but they're actually aware of her in some way.
Those,
I guess at that time they didn't know she was the Slayer. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it just seemed like there was something missing.
these dream sequences, which are very low energy, always cut to Lothos low energy scenes. So in this scene, Natasha Gregson Wagner is fed to Lothos by Paul Rubens, who brings her as a sacrifice.
That was a low budget, that low
yeah.
energy scene.
Yeah, very, very much so.
Um,
So then Merrick surprises her in the locker room. I love her line, "What are you doing here? This is a naked place." But the lack of music in this scene, it's just another very flat, kind of weird scene.
I still liked it though.
Me too, because he famously throws the knife at her head and she catches it, which was fun.
And then she
Yeah.
has one of the most famous lines from this movie that she's like, I don't want to spend the rest of my life chasing vampires. All I want to do is go to Europe, marry Christian Slater, and die.
Yeah.
That was a fun line. Also, very much the kind of the main struggle of the show is that Buffy is always like, you know, she kind of wants a normal life, but she has like this power that she has to deal with, which is handled very well in the show.
So, like I asked a few moments ago, she always had this power, but she wasn't aware of it, or she didn't know how to harness it. Is that the case?
Well, because I think the hint that she's always had it but didn't know it is when she punches him really hard, and she says like, I've never punched anyone before. So I think that it's supposed to imply that she always had this power but just hadn't really noticed.
I wonder if she had ever had any moments in her childhood where something happened and she couldn't explain it or whatever. But
I know I did. Just moments where like you had strength you didn't expect.
Do tell. What did you do?
Or just like a bully would like pick on me and I'd like pick him up and throw him across like the whole room. And people would be like, what the hell? And I'd be like, I don't know.
Yeah, that was WrestleMania too. You were watching King Kong Bundy
Oh, I forget.
go against Hulk Hogan.
I always get my memories of childhood mixed up with WrestleMania too. It's like, then I had a tag team with Mr. T. I'm like, what? That didn't happen to me. This training montage, we open the training montage, she's hitting a heavy bag. I always thought if I had one of those heavy bags, I would be like Mike Tyson. I was like, if I just had one, I'd become like a professional boxer. Do you ever used to want to have one of those heavy bags?
I didn't want the heavy bag. I wanted the speed bag because I thought like I was quick as a kid.
Yeah.
And I think to this day, I still can't do it right.
Oh, I mean, I think you'll remember that I had one as a kid.
Yeah.
My brother had one. And I have kind of like a trick, not a trick, but just like a, what do we call it? Like a way to like,
it's almost cartoonish the way you would.
Yeah. But it was like, I would hit it really fast, but it's like, that wasn't the real way you would do it, but it would seem, you know what I mean?
Like if you tried that technique in the boxing ring, you would get destroyed.
Oh yeah. It was like Popeye doing like circular punches.
Oh.
So once we get really into this training montage, one thing I did think was really cool was it seems clear that Kristy Swanson is doing her own stunts.
Yeah, for the most part.
Well, it's a lot more than you.
You don't know what I've done.
So at the end of this montage, Merrick asks her, "What does Lothos do to you in your dreams?" She says, "He scared me."
Well, what was she supposed to say?
I don't know. But the next scene, Rusty, I think you must have loved this scene. Stephen Root talking about how he's a happening dude. And he goes into his whole monologue about having a drug experience. And meanwhile, Buffy hears a bug and she throws a thumbtack and takes that bug out.
That bug was one of those like flies you would win at like from like a skee ball machine with your tickets. It was those plastic flies.
Yeah, it was definitely no flies were actually harmed in the making of this film.
But the Stephen Root monologue was pretty funny.
He says he could see music and it was bright red. That's actually a real medical condition known as synesthesia.
Yes. I've read that. I like with the Stephen Root monologue where he's talking about the time he dropped acid in the 60s. And he said that he was a big toaster. And he's like, well, we're all molecules. So it's like, he's not wrong. And he's like, my friend Melissa, her head looked like a big party balloon.
It is weird how we're all molecules, man.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some good YouTube videos about that.
A weird scene, the next scene with Pike when he quits the auto shop and he's like, he tells the guy who owns it, like, if you see Benny, you should run.
You know what like freaked me out for 1 second? Because it took me a second to process who the actor was.
It's Luke Perry. I've said it a million times.
No, the other guy.
Oh, the guy who runs the shop.
Yeah, how long did it take you to figure out that it was the Tom Jane?
I didn't know you knew him so well. Most people call him Thomas.
I call him Tommy, but we're on air, so I prefer to call him Tom. But I was just like, that's like the guy Todd from Boogie Nights. That was just like, wait, isn't that Thomas Jane? And
I didn't process that at all. I read that Thomas Jane was in this, and I could not place where he was. Wow.
Well, he looks just like his Boogie Nights character. So when he auditioned for that, he just had to show him this.
Thomas Jane has had an interesting arc as an actor.
He really has.
He's gone from like anonymous B-level guy to then like it seemed like he was like an A-list star. And
Yeah.
now it seems like he's in horrible Redbox movies.
he's our third in Call of Duty.
Yeah,
That's what he's doing.
He like flared up for like a second, and now
Yeah,
who
he
knows
was.
where he is.
Yeah, he was big. Got to get him on. He's got to get a new agent.
It was a really weird choice going with your beagle as his agent. He's like, "Hey man, what's up with the new part?" He's like, "Sounds. I mean, that's weird, but I'm in."
Yeah, I mean, the percentage.
Okay,
the percentage is good, but
we're upping the offer. We're upping the. Okay, we're going higher.
So the beagle's a great negotiator, is what you're saying.
Yeah, but only can't take it much higher than that. Oh man.
Oh boy.
I thought we were gonna hear the dog in the background after you made that sound just then.
No, they're deaf now. You insulted my dogs. I could get the baby though.
When your dogs finally die, are you gonna get a new dog?
Is this on-air content?
Yeah.
No, take a break for a while because maybe when the baby gets older.
Yeah.
Dogs are.
You should get like
I'll tell you,
tough dog.
I'll tell you this though. Dogs are a lot of work, but the thing that most people say is when you have a newborn and you have a baby, dogs just become like 100 times more irritating because you're already busy with the baby, and then like when the dog is being difficult, it's just infuriating.
Oh yeah, you're like you want to explain to the dog like, do you realize that we have a baby now?
Yeah.
It's like, come on.
Well, I mean the latest thing, which would probably drive you crazy, you're probably like, oh, you got to get rid of them, but I guess they're obviously aware of the baby and they want attention. So the newest thing, both of them have been shitting in the house. And it's like that's like the last thing you want to deal with at like 2 a.m. when you wake up for the baby, and then you like smell something and you turn on the light and you see shit at the bottom of the stairs.
Just send me in. Send me in. I won't. I'm not going to air this.
You could
just send me in. You don't have to worry about them anymore.
You could get in touch with Jen. She would probably pay you a hefty sum to become the hired assassin.
Just leave the shovel out and give me an hour.
Now you're implicating yourself because there have been rumors that you beat cats with a wiffle ball bat.
That's true. Wow. I've become, fake it till you make it. The guy made up crazy stories about me. I'm sure I mentioned that in more than one episode.
Yes.
And now I am an animal killer. I got to delete this. Shit.
Delete all the evidence. Jeez. Ray's never existed. He's just telling you. It's like the fucking.
Oh yeah, he's like
the dog with David Berkowitz.
Ed, have you ever thought about killing Rusty's dog and burying him in the backyard? We'll put a beautiful lawn there, Ed. Oh, they're gonna love it. Nova's gonna play back there. You're doing them a favor. Killing them dogs.
I love this theory that Ray doesn't exist. That you've been doing your own plumbing. Really shoddy work too. You know what I forgot to mention to you before that you would find interesting? We were talking about Natasha Gregson Wagner. Did you know that her godmother was Ruth Gordon?
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Good old Ruth. We talked about her from Rosemary's Baby.
Man, they must have made a lot of Rosemary's Baby jokes. I bet Natasha Gregson Wagner would be like having tea, and she's like, "No, godmother, there's not any tannis root in this, is there?" And they're like, "Oh," and then it's like, "And you're not gonna fuck my teenage boyfriend, are you?" "Oh, you're crazy." That's my Ruth Gordon voice. Oh my god, get me off the get me off the air.
This has not been a stellar performances with impressions today.
Man, remember the Dead Kennedy song MTV Get Off the Air? It's like Eddie D Get Off the Air.
I forgot how much Jello Biafra hated jocks. He would always reference jocks in between songs. You fucking jocks.
Man, the crazy thing is how much he hated Dianne Feinstein. I should really know since she's been my senator my whole life. But it's incredible because it's like he's complaining about her like in 1980, and like she's still a senator. She's 87 years old. 87 years old. Come on, why?
He went from complaining about Reagan and Jerry Brown.
The Saddam Hussein of America, George Bush.
Is that your Jello Biafra?
Yeah, that was I had like a spoken word CD of his that I would listen to a lot. So I remember that was like, one of the first things
Was
he
that
said.
the collaboration with Mojo Nixon?
No, it was
Eh.
I blow minds for a living.
Oh, I remember that. Okay,
There you have it.
there you have.
So the next scene is a huge scene, Rusty. This is Buffy in the alley. Now, this was the entire genesis for the whole character
Really? Okay.
because Joss Whedon, he said, in the mid 80s, I'd gotten so tired of the slasher film cliche, especially the dumb, oversexed blonde stumbling into a dark place to have sex with her boyfriend only to be killed. I
Mhm.
began thinking I would love to see a scene where a ditzy blonde walks into a dark alley, a monster attacks her, and she kicks its ass.
Oh.
So this was the whole genesis for the character, and definitely is a scene that shows up in the show all the time. There's like an alley set. I feel like they always just go back to. And this vampire, he looked like someone we went to school with.
I can't put which vampire was it in the scene. I forgot already.
Oh, no, I mean he just looked like a mutant in general because we went to school right by the sewage treatment plant.
What's the ratio? If you went through your yearbook, how many mutants are you putting check marks to compared to norms?
Well, as we said before, in our hometown there was harbor rats and manor brats,
Yeah.
and we were harbor rats, and the harbor rats is like 70% mutant. The manor brats is like 12% mutant.
Do you think that's changed, or do you think if you went to Seaver High School now, you'd see the same percentage?
No, I think it's changed. I mean, I feel like it's
More normal now?
I almost said more classy, but it does feel like, like you go by the water, like there's like really fancy houses now where they used to just
Yeah.
be like fucking
Muck.
Quint from Jaws, like literally like fucking scary fishermen.
I remember that like boatyard that looked like it could have been like left over from like a hurricane from the 60s, but it was still up and
Oh,
running.
yeah.
Yeah, like the
I
fishermen
remember I used to deliver pizza to some houses that were so scary. But I remember, like, I swear to God, one house was just like, you open the door, it was just like a boathouse. Like the living room was like water. There's just a boat in the living room. I'll never understand it.
There's a boat in the house.
You just pull up, park the boat, jump on the couch, watch TV.
Yeah.
But it's kind of interesting. So she puts a stake in him and then does like a kick to put it in deeper.
Oh yeah.
And also, this was definitely Kristy Swanson doing that kick. But it was weird because she says Toaster kicked him, and I couldn't figure out if it was Toaster kicked him or Toaster caked him. Now, in the closed captions, it says Toaster kicked him. I looked at the script; it said Toaster caked him, but I still don't know what the fuck does that mean.
I don't know. Toaster caked him.
So. This is a fun action scene here, very Whedon-esque, where Pike gets pursued by the vampires, and Paul Rubens tries to smash his arm through the roof of the car, and he loses his arm.
Yeah, like Lothos says, like I feel like Paul Rubens was a little sloppy as a vampire in this one. He survived for centuries.
Yeah.
And this is how he loses his arm?
Man, if you're a vampire and you only speak one language, you must feel pretty shitty about yourself. You had all that time.
I know I said this before, but English has changed drastically over the last 2 centuries.
Yeah,
so even just
true.
speaking English. But there's a lot of commentary on Paul Rubens' hair in this movie.
Interesting. Go on.
I liked it.
Yeah, me too.
I thought it was a good look. I don't know. They just made fun of his hairdo a lot. I guess that was because it was long and messy. I'm not sure.
And we got to say the classic line here where he's like, "You ruined my new jacket," and then he goes, "Kill him a lot."
That's a good line. And I was thinking, was this around the time that Paul Rubens was just started to recover from his incident?
Yeah.
Because I think this was his first movie back, right?
Yeah, I believe it was.
And they made no mention. I remember when this movie came out, they made no mention to the Pee Wee Herman character or anything. It was just straight up Paul Rubens. And I think that's what the director wanted. They wanted to completely escape that character.
So Buffy saves Pike after he has a little bit of a fight with these vampires, and they come home, and Pike's coming on pretty strong to Buffy. But it kind of they have good chemistry in this film. I think
they do. Yeah,
I bet they fucked. But his delivery here. Do you notice his delivery is strange? He's like, I don't know if he's still playing it wasted, But he's like, it's not a good scene, it's a bad scene. And then he goes, I'm out of here. I watched it like a million times. He sounds like a rugrat. He sounds like a kid. He's like, I'm out of here.
Uh, I don't remember that.
So then Luke Perry's like, I'll stay right here and make sure the sun comes up and everything, which is cool. You know,
Yeah.
if you're in a vampire situation, you got to immediately convert to the night shift. You got to sleep during the day. I actually like to justify that lifestyle. I'd be like, oh, nice. Then we have another Lothos Paul Rubens scene where Lothos is pissed off about what's happened here.
What's the energy on this scene?
This is another low energy scene. Oh, all these cutbacks. You're just
they're really unmemorable too.
Yeah. And the set is just like very generic, like film set.
Yeah, exactly.
Then we're back in school. Rusty, you talked about where Buffy gets her butt touched and she like flips the guy and she's like, I don't want to be touched.
Rightly so.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But they needed that because that's when other characters and her friends become aware that something's going on in Buffy's life.
Then we cut back to a little more training. And in the script, the game was football. I feel like that happens a lot in movies because you're eventually like, football, so we have to have like 22 people in all these outfits, and can we just do basketball?
Basketball is like the easiest one.
Man, so the basketball game where there's a vampire on the court. This reminds me a lot of Teen Wolf, Rusty.
It does. I do like that.
It gave me a great idea. I'm going to write, remember how we used to write to those Nintendo companies pitching games? I'm going to pitch a Jordan versus Bird kind of style one-on-one vampire versus werewolf basketball. Couldn't you see that?
I could,
like a horrible LJN game.
I could see you pre-ordering that though, without even seeing what the gameplay is like.
Oh God, what was that horrible game we had? Zombies versus Pirates Dodgeball that we got for like $5 on Xbox 360. Now it's probably like 30 years ago.
Disgusting game that was.
Oh God,
no play value for that one.
What do you think? What do you think the vampires and the werewolves would be like? Like the vampire would be like a Steph Curry kind of like agile player.
I was thinking the werewolf.
I thought the werewolf would be like a dunker, kind of like in your face force of nature, like a Shaq.
Like what Teen Wolf with Scott Howard became, like just fucking being like 5'4" and dunking it on everyone.
Yeah. Well, here's the weird thing. So Gruler is a vampire, and he's on the court, and he goes up and he dunks, and then he clearly lowers down like in a slow way.
I like that.
Me too. But then the ref is like, we got to get him out of here. And the coach is like, yeah, that's not right. But like, it was kind of a weird moment because I can't tell what exactly they're thinking or like what they're reacting to. Like, do they know it's supernatural? What do they, you know what I mean? Like, it was kind of hard to tell what their motivation was there.
Well, people are way too casual about something out of the ordinary like that. People, I mean, especially in the climate now with the pandemic, people would fucking be fleeing. See somebody potentially diseased or something.
They'd be like, I should have come to this game in the first place, and now there's a vampire in the court.
I do like when Gorilla dunks it and he's coming down. He's so proud of himself.
Yeah. Now a huge moment here. Another big performance. Another big actor appears.
Yeah.
Ben Affleck.
Oh yeah.
Now Ben recently said on Sirius XM's The Jess Cagle Show. He said, apparently I'm so bad in that movie that my one line, which was take it, I thought I did fine. And the director seemed happy. But then he went to the movie and he didn't get premiere tickets or anything. He just went. He went and he was like, that's not my voice. That's not me. And he's like, I was dubbed in English.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty
it sounds like him though. I mean, look, Ben Affleck knows his voice better than I do. I'll be upfront about that, Ben. But I thought it sounded like him, so I don't know.
Was that one of his first roles too?
Well, his first role famously was Voyage of the Mimi.
Yeah, of course. He was
yes. CT.
I only remember a couple. I remember the captain and Sally Ruth.
I think I've told the story a million times, but that really awkward kid from our school, when we went to the Voyage of the Mimi field trip and they had Grandpa, I can't remember his name, like whatever his name was, Grandpa Melville or whatever he was.
Captain Melville.
Granville, Captain Granville.
Granville, yeah.
But they had him as like, it was like a Q&A, which is like
Mhm.
amazing because I was like, this is like a celebrity, but really Captain Granville probably fucking living in a box.
He was living in like those like slums in out east on Long Island.
But this kid was like so awkward, and he's like nervous before he's gonna ask the question. He like gets up, he's like shaking, and he's like and like he can't spit out the question. Then finally he's like, "Was TC really your son?" And he's like, Captain Granville's like, "It was CT, and I was supposed to be his grandfather, and no, he's an actor named Ben. He's a great kid."
Put him in his place.
Uh,
Wait, do they still even teach Voyage of the Mimi? I know it was like educational, but I feel like we're just dating ourselves.
oh, there's no way they teach Voyage of the Mimi.
It was like a dual subject thing, right? It was science and something else.
I would have loved to have been the Prussian company behind Voyage of the Mimi. What a great scam. They were like, oh, we could sell this to like 5,000 schools, have them teach it across multiple subjects. It's really just like a dumb kind of mini series.
Yeah, but I remember some of the science aspects to it. What was the other part of it? Was it just like English? Like
Yeah.
I remember there was like a side story. Like then CT, wasn't he like into one of the girls or something?
Oh, there was all kinds of stories. I remember the guy got like hypothermia, and a guy had to get in naked with him, like in a sleeping bag. And then there was a time where they ran out of water, and they had to like, I think there was also like a computer game too. They had to pee on like, they peed on like a tarp or something, and then it became like you left it out in the sun, whatever it is. My memory of it's so shoddy. So if I ever need water, I'm gonna do it wrong.
Yeah. Wait. So there was survival lessons.
Yeah.
to be
Oh,
learned.
survive. That's the biggest lesson because that's like the whole conflict of the film. They're on the voyage, but things go wrong.
So wait. So hypothermia, we get naked and snuggle. And then
Yep.
From water,
Yeah.
we pee on a tarp.
Yeah. Well, maybe it was salt water on a tarp. I don't know what it was. I do remember there was
I
pee
know
at
what
one
you're.
point.
I actually know what you're talking about. You set up like a rig that collects the salt water, but it like filters out the salt,
Yeah.
makes it drinkable, or the condensation like lifts out of the salt water, but it's just not the whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
You're not coming to this show for science.
Grueller fucking flees, and Buffy goes to follow him. This was the very strange moment. This moment did not age well.
No.
It's just weird. This is another moment where it feels like a few moments were cut out because Buffy comes outside. There's guys with motorcycles, and then we go to like an awkward cut of a guy hitting the ground and her driving off.
That was very bizarre.
And then he says the D word slur for lesbian, and he says he's telling the world. But it's weird because it's like,
even for 92, it feels really out of place.
Besides the fact that it's like a slur and it's like really out of place in this film, it's weird that he would say that in that situation. Like that's just bizarre.
Yeah. I don't know. Is it like a cheap joke or is it just like a shocking thing because he's a biker guy? I didn't get the angle.
No, I didn't get it
Like
either.
it just seemed like out of place. Like I don't know whose idea it was to be like, oh, let's put that in.
Now here's a thing here. So she goes by and Pike sees her and he follows on a dirt bike. Was it intentional? Did you notice later in the film when he has a motorcycle, he's got a different motorcycle? Does he just have a lot of motorcycles because he works at the place?
Well, I think he explains to Benny in one of the first scenes where he's talking about if he had X parts to like build the bike. So I think he was still like restoring his motorcycle. I mean, from what my understanding and the way they talk, this takes place over a period of like 3 weeks.
Oh, okay, wow.
I think she makes reference to that like 3 weeks. I think she said something along the lines like 3 weeks ago or something to that effect. So I think he was building the bike, but in that scene, he only had access to his dirt bike.
Yeah.
Which is, not the same. You know what I wanted to ask you though is like, I know she has special powers and she, but would she know how to ride a motorcycle having never ridden one? Because I feel like I would have no idea how to ride a motorcycle.
Really? I think I could figure it out.
Like in that kind of moment, like you're chasing after someone, you see a motorcycle, you grab it.
Literally chasing after a vampire is the only way I'm going to be riding a motorcycle. That's like one of the like dumb things I'll never do.
Ride a like Renegade. You're kicking the NES game or the arcade game. But yeah, I mean, I feel like if she had some power, I feel like she could have chased them down. Did she really need the motorcycle? Or was he just had super... Well, he did say to her, though, that he's like, hey, Buffy, I'm a god now.
Oh, yeah. And he's in that weird,
So,
weird mouth thing.
Yeah. Was it the choppers he had in there, or was it just?
Loving those ASMR videos. You watch that GB?
No, you told me about it though.
Hi, my name is GB. Welcome to my channel.
So I don't know if I like that. That just
Uh,
making me.
You got to put your headphones
I don't-
on. Just ride it out.
I don't know if I like whispers like that. I don't like the over enunciation. I don't like the mouth noises.
Well, I don't like when the whispers get too close, but a normal whisper I like.
There was one dude that had a YouTube channel. He got big, but I think he might have fizzled out or probably did something controversial. I don't know, but he would talk really low in a whisper, and he would I'm going to crinkle a paper bag, and he would crinkle the bag. What are you doing? It's not working.
It must be so weird for the people who are like GB, who's huge and makes millions every year, to be like, you're living in a mansion. Someone's like, man, how do you get all this money? He's like, oh, I crinkle a paper bag on YouTube.
Just over and over again. Yeah.
Or what's it like for the people who have 3 views? They're like, okay, I got 1 viewer. If you could rate and review.
I hate the people that are into chewing and eating ASMR.
I hate chewing.
It's I don't want to hear somebody fucking chew.
That's
food.
the worst thing ever. Ugh, even that's horrible. You should fucking be beaten to death.
Wow, you're extreme dictator over there.
I know.
Handing out death sentences for chewing.
I know. What a Nova, I never told you what happened to your father. Okay, it's gonna take a lot to explain.
Jen hates mouth noises like that, chewing. She doesn't like gum. Gum, when you chew gum and you mash it a bunch of times.
I don't like that either. Ugh.
Yeah. I'm getting double death sentences.
Wow.
Yeah, it's called misophonia.
Yeah.
You might have it. Look at you.
Maybe I do. I got synesthesia. I got misophonia. I'm made of molecules. I don't know what the fuck's going on here. So now we go to the amusement park or kind of parade area, whatever this area was. Another very the action is very slow paced here. Not too well directed, this action.
Yeah.
But wasn't it erotic when Buffy landed on top of Luke Perry and she's like, what are you doing here? And he's like, I'm saving your butt. Well,
Yeah.
there was an exchange of butts, but ooh, I was like, kiss. Although it's kind of weird because I felt like there's still a vampire there. I was like, you guys have a real moment.
The vampire really gave them a moment to have.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like the vampires just did a lot of standing around watching while other people engaged in the action.
Well, there's one vampire in this scene when Buffy is she breaks out of their grip and then does 2 kicks. But the vampire, who might be a woman, I couldn't really tell, but has the dark black hair, she is doing a weird kind of dance in place, waiting for she looks like a video game villain, when they're not fully engaged yet. And it's in a final fight style game, they're just moving, but they're not attacking you yet.
Just waiting.
It was like a Street Fighter 2, before the fight begins. I was just what are they doing?
So you felt the chemistry between Pike and Buffy the whole way through, or this scene especially?
Felt it. I'm writing fucking fanfic about this every night. I have emails I haven't responded to just because I'm working on my Buffy fanfic, and they're like, oh, really? That's cool. I'm like, the film. I'm like, oh, that's weird.
Opposites attract, then. I wonder. I mean, this obviously drew them together, but what's life post vampires for them? Is she leaving town with him?
Yeah.
Is he sticking around?
I mean, that's the thing about every film like this. I remember when I was a little kid, you watch Say Anything, and you're like, oh, wow, that's so romantic. But come on, they got together when they're 17. They shouldn't be together that long.
I don't want to tell you about Harry Potter.
Oh, God. I feel like the before Sunrise, Before Sunset, that trilogy really handles that well. But you've probably never seen the other sequels to that, have you?
I have not. No, I only saw Before Sunrise.
But Before Sunrise was a romantic kind of idealistic young film, and then by the time you get to Before Midnight, was that the last one? It's kind of a bruising, real feeling, dark relationship.
Really?
Yeah,
oh, that's interesting.
So here is one of the biggest changes from the original script, which makes so much more sense. And another moment when Joss Whedon must have flipped out, because what's supposed to happen here is that Merrick gives Buffy the opportunity to escape from Lothos here, right when Lothos puts her under the spell.
Yeah.
And And what was supposed to happen is that Lothos was going to turn Merrick, like he's about to bite Merrick, and then Merrick shoots himself in the head to prevent himself from becoming a vampire.
Mhm.
But instead here, Lothos turns the stake on Merrick, and then Merrick tells Buffy, like, when the music stops, which I've watched this movie like 3 times now. I still don't know what the fuck that really means. That was kind of like a lame
Yes.
way to wrap it up.
This was like the dumbest scene of the movie.
Yeah. Because they've got like Buffy completely dead to rights, and Lothos is like, it's not time, let's go. Paul Rubens is like, I thought we were gonna feast.
This is
He's
like the James Bond kind of like that Austin Powers parodies. Like, you have them, just kill them.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing?
Lothos literally should just say, like, I'm waiting for the end of the film. It's only like 12 more minutes left.
Yeah, how did he survive for so long? He's like so cocky and confident. Like, does that mean that every other Slayer was that weak that they never challenged him, even like upon more like guidance?
You know, Rutger Hauer had great politics. Great guy. I believe he's
Really?
into animal rights. He's all into progressive causes.
I didn't
Yeah,
like him in this movie, but I
Oh yeah,
don't have
he's
an
great
issue with Rutger Hauer.
Yeah,
Otherwise.
and also he does seem like he's having fun, at least in the film. Like when he's playing the violin, you're like, oh, he's like having a good time.
You know, I have to admit that violin was unattractive to me.
That was, and also it was almost like it was missing pieces. Like I think
Yeah.
they made, and I was just like, get that violin off the fucking screen.
They tried to do that like that ugly like 90s art, like artsy stuff.
Yeah,
Like you said, the missing pieces and like the extra shapes. Like, we don't need that. We know what a violin looks like. Just give it to us. This guy's not that eccentric.
So Buffy is sad. We have a little aftermath of that. She's mourning her mentor. Hope to get a mentor someday, then mourn them. Then she goes to the dance and her friends are dissing her. It's clear that she's surpassed the friends, but she's bummed because she belongs in no world. She's got nothing left here.
I feel like Buffy grew up so quickly.
Yeah.
In the course of like 3 scenes. Like, she went from talking like a valley girl to being like having a real world understanding and like very like sympathetic and stuff. So it's like, when did that happen?
Yeah. I did like the line where they're like, Pike doesn't look 50. Like she's hanging out with she's having an affair, that whole thing.
Yeah.
He's like 50. Anyway, so then Buffy's lost hope here. This is actually classic screenplay structure where it's like she's already learned her lesson, but she's going to do like a little bit of a fallback to her old ways. So Pike pulls up. He's driving a different motorcycle than before, and she's like, I'm just like giving up this. Oh, what did you say?
I was going to say he also has a new look too.
Yeah, and she's like, I'm going to the dance. I'm over this Slayer stuff. Like, it's all fucked up. David Arquette eavesdropping in a photo booth. He's like, hey guys, I'm still in the film.
Yeah, they needed him. Well, I guess he's the one that figured it out, right?
Yeah, he knew. It doesn't really pay off that much.
No.
Because it seems like the vampires were already pretty involved in the curriculum of the school, that they probably would have gone to the dance and killed them anyway. But since they know it's Buffy, they're like, oh, we're going to go to the dance. Mm-hmm. Here's a weird, bad moment. It's very small, but do you notice like Luke Perry is on the motorcycle and pulls away on the sidewalk, and it cuts to a shot that is like almost the same size. It's like a jump cut completely, clearly to get his stunt double out, but like the way it doesn't change the angle enough. I was just like, what are you doing?
I didn't even notice that.
I think they had like a very notable extra. If you notice, like kind of an eccentric looking woman passes by.
Oh yeah, I did notice that.
I feel like that was to draw your attention away from the fact that they were going to do that, but they could have cut to like, his a close up of him with his hands on the whatever you call the gears, whatever you call those things. They could have done.
Wait, you're the guy that said you could ride a motorcycle if you had to.
I can. I've ridden wave runners many times. It's the same principle.
I need to see this. I don't even think you can ride a moped.
Well, then we go back to Lothos and Paul Rubens yet again. They must have done all these scenes in like one day and been like, this is boring, because like it's just so low energy, as we said a million times. Lothos is like, I would like to dance. And everyone's getting ready. Pike's getting ready for a fight. Buffy's getting ready for the dance. We're heading to the final big scene here, Russ. We're almost done with this podcast.
Yeah.
Buffy goes back to the dance and she's rejected. Her old boyfriend doesn't like her anymore. Her old friends don't like her anymore. She's alone. She's going. She stands there. Pike shows up. Great chemistry again.
Mm-hmm.
Great chemistry.
Yeah. I was a believer.
The vampires attack.
I want to be a part of that.
Rusty, I bet you like the guy who comes in and he's like, "There's vampires out there, man!" And then he realizes he's bleeding. He's like, "Oh my god!" and collapses.
Why do I like that guy? That guy sucks.
Really, I liked him. He just seemed like a classic like 80s like side character, not even side character, but just like person who appears in one scene and acts weird.
Yeah. You know what I remember? The DJ vampire guy that comes in.
Mm-hmm.
I remember seeing this in '92 and being like, "Oh, I like that character," and now I was excited to see him again.
Wow, I'm glad you guys are
no, I was
reconnecting
just
after all this years.
And I was trying to put together the connection of why I would have thought I liked this character. It was annoying.
Very needless confusion in this scene though, because so the vampires are all standing by the door, and they're like, they won't come in if we don't invite them. And Hilary Swank's like, "I already invited them. They're seniors."
Yeah.
But then they're like, "If you don't come out, Buffy, we won't come in." Or like, I'm just like, why is this even a debate? Like, that's just making it confusing for no reason. I'm like, were they invited or not? Because like they're hanging out by the door as if they can't get in.
Yeah.
But Buffy goes outside. Ooh, I love fog machines. I love hazers. Man, if I could just run a fog machine all the time, my apartment would be like 3 feet of fog. It would look like, I don't know if you remember the film Silver Bullet, but there's a scene like that. That'd be great. But I know I'd be setting off my smoke alarm.
Oh
no, I trust me. I've set off so many smoke alarms with fog machines on shoots before. Always at the worst time too, where you're just like, come on. If I could get away with it, I would.
I feel like that would be close to the full transformation. It's like how many more steps after the living with a fog machine running 24/7?
Oh my God, meet a girl on Hinge. She comes over, I open the door. I'm like, "Greetings, madame." I'm like, riffraff.
Yeah. Hello.
Yo, wet. I am not wet. Come in. So Buffy, basically this is just an excuse to get Buffy in like an isolated location so we only have to deal with like one character fighting people. She says Paul Rubin's having a bad hair day. They have a little bit of a fight here. Meanwhile, the vampire DJ takes over. Vampires are dancing.
You talk about low energy. I feel like this death scene with Lothos is low energy too.
Wait, with Lothos or with Paul Rubens?
No, the Paul Rubens death scene I liked.
Oh yeah.
But when she kills Lothos,
we're gonna get to that.
Okay. I didn't know
so he's like, "I can do anything," and she's like, "Oh yeah, clap." Great line. Mm-hmm. She kills them. Paul Rubens. This was completely improvised. Of course, we on the Pee Wee Herman episode, check that out. We talk about his improv history with the Groundlings.
Yeah.
They must have been rolling the aisles when he did this. So after when he dies, Lothos starts playing the violin, which I know you're annoyed by. And meanwhile, Luke Perry electrocutes Benny. This is kind of good, all this action here. But the very lame way that she's like, "Wait, the rest is silence." Like, she kind of realizes to break his mind control. But previously, music never really played a factor before. So it doesn't really make any sense.
I just have a quick question for you. As you said, Pike kills Benny.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we've known each other for a long time. I suddenly become a vampire. How long before you kill me? Do you give me a moment, or is it instant?
No, I'd give you a moment. I think I try to reason with you, and I'd be like, "I'm willing to join the bad team. Trust me." So she pulls out the cross. This happens in every vampire movie where someone pulls out a cross and it's like, that doesn't work. That's one annoying thing about vampire movies, where it's always like there's like the one thing like garlic doesn't work or whatever it's going to be. And Salem's Lot, there's like the guy pulls out the cross. Basically the same thing happens. But this is a nice Valley Girl touch on it when she uses hairspray to, like, he sets the cross on fire. She uses hairspray to make it like a flamethrower. Using hairspray to make a fire into a weapon, that was huge in the 80s and early 90s. I really thought that was going to come up a lot in life. I should probably go to like a Proud Boys gathering and
hairspray.
Yeah, and like a torch and try that. And everyone's just staring at me as it's like not working. And I'm like, I'll be right back with a compound bow.
You show up with like moose. It'd be like, would that work? You'd show, wait.
Well, I know I've got Rogaine on hand. I wonder when I'll finally stop using that.
Wait, you still use it?
Oh yeah. Once they got you in there. I mean, even though I shave my head, it's like the patch I'm missing is like so noticeable that I'm like, it'd be nice if that filled in. But I'm at a weird moment now where I'm kind of like my hair's growing back in, but it's like doesn't look good. But I don't give a fuck.
It doesn't look good?
No.
If you let it grow to the length that you had it before you shaved it, would it look just like it did, you think? Or would there be a little more problem areas?
I think it would look like it did. But it's just like I have like a very noticeable, like I have like a gash, I'll call it, of baldness. So it's like my hair goes the wrong way. It's like you see what's happening there,
A gash of baldness.
A gash. So the aftermath of we think that Lothos has been defeated, and then a nice moment in the gym where Stephen Root is giving out detention slips. Did you ever watch all of Barry, by the way?
No.
Such a good show. Thought you were watching it at one point.
I made it like 2 episods, and the baby came right around the time I started it.
And he's like, detention. But Lothos comes back in. Speaking of low energy, he's got a katana. So many good sword fights in the Buffy TV show. This sword fight is like at like 1/8 speed. I feel like the stunt coordinator, like an hour before they shot this, must have been like, Rutger, we should work on that sword stuff now. Instead of like, when you hear about like, oh my God, like Ewan McGregor trained on the lightsaber for like 5 months. It's like, this is just like, well, I'll give it a go. But man, I love that she fights him with the California flag. That's the flag I respect.
Yes.
You don't get it in New York because the New York flag that never comes up.
I don't even know what the New York flag looks like.
It's got like a lady on it.
Oh.
Hey, lady! But the California flag, oh my God, that's all over the place. We'll die for that flag.
Everybody knows the California flag.
The fight is so slow-mo.
Mm-hmm.
Pike tries to help. He gets flipped out of there.
Yeah, he does.
Buffy kills him. So anticlimactic. Like, I thought that he was going to come back again because she stabs him and then he kind of covers himself with his cloak. So I was like, oh, he's going to come back again? This guy's fucking Jason Voorhees.
It's like you expect it to be like Castlevania where he comes back in a different form.
Exactly. What is a man? Pike. So she says, Pike. And he goes, I used to be. You know what this line reminded me of, Rusty?
What did it remind you of?
You don't know what this reminded me of?
No.
The famous moment in the film, The Postman, yeah. When Tom Petty has a cameo and Kevin Costner says, aren't you famous? And he goes, used to be.
I was that was bloody painful, that movie.
Yeah.
Do you think you could ever sit through that again?
As I recall, it's like 3 hours long. I think that'd be a struggle.
There is a lot of things that like I haven't retained, and I wish I did. That is not one of them. I don't remember that movie except that scene that you just mentioned.
All I remember is that, and then at the end, they like made a statue of him, and it was like, oh wow.
Was there like a dopey kid scene too, where the kid like?
Yeah, well, there's like a montage where he's like delivering the mail. The little kid's like, the mail's coming. But also I love the moment where Pike is like, I can't move my legs because you're sitting on them. The chemistry again is killer. And I love also Pike. So he's been kind of knocked out and he looks around, all the vampires are dead. And he's like, did I do all that? And she's like, no. And he goes, did you do all that? And she's like, yeah, I did. I felt that was empowering.
Yeah.
Then, the last famous thing, they have a final dance and he's like, neither of them want to lead. They agree. It's like, it's a real message of equality here. But then some people don't like that. Right after that, she rides on the back of his motorcycle. But like I said, riding on the back of the motorcycle is fun. That's great. So then we have the post-credit sequence, Rusty, where someone says
Yeah.
that the vampires were like young Republicans. Stephen Root talks about being in Vietnam, and he says, "Well, I saw Platoon."
This was some of my favorite moments. This last
And
thing.
Liz Smith is the reporter. I used to love reading those Liz Smith columns in like, was it Newsday or Post or Daily News or one of those, the gossip columns. But it was like, obviously, like the gossip was like totally arranged with publicists. It was like very harmless gossip.
Yeah. I don't remember the Liz Smith stuff though.
Really,
Yeah.
that's who the reporter was. She was a famous
man.
New York figure, and it'd be like, the toast of the town with Truman Capote is blah blah blah. You know, very classic stuff. Truman Capote. What the fuck?
And then it ends with poor Rubens
Still dying.
thriving.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that was Buffy.
That was
did it.
Buffy. I mean, I have to say, as low energy as it was, especially the second time I watched it, I enjoyed watching it. A lot of great lines and stuff.
Well, like I said at the beginning, it was so fast moving that like you were able to get through the low energy without dwelling on it too much. It's just like, we're
Yeah.
on to something else. And it was, I still think it's enjoyable. I would recommend it.
I would recommend it too. And even as someone who just watched the show, which is a million times better, man, I love the opening credits of Buffy. Watch it every time. I've never skipped it.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Wow. Wow. You know what? Just for that, I think I know what song is taking us out.
It's not cranberry sauce.